Good morning. Today I'm going to present to you the engine systems, which is something you needed to read for today. So I'm just going to go through it together with you so that I may possibly clear any doubts or questions you might have. So the engine systems are basically five. First of all, the fuel system, then the oil system, the cooling system, the electrical system, and the exhaust system, as you have read from the photocopy from the PDF. Now let's focus on the first one, the fuel system, and let me just use this. Now, we need to distinguish between petrol engines and diesel engines. Okay, things change. In the case of petrol engines, okay, once again, we need to make a distinction, dobbiamo fare una distinzione. Old engines actually had a carburetor. A carburetor is this thing here, sort of. This is the carburetor of a chainsaw, okay? But it's very similar to a carburetor of a car. As you can see here, there is a small pipe which sucks in air, basically, and mixes it with fuel. Okay, so this is how it used to work in the past for old engines. But today's engine, modern engines, okay, all use a fuel port injection. Now, in a fuel port injection, quindi iniezione indiretta diremmo noi, the fuel is injected here, right above, proprio sopra, the intake valve. So here you have air flowing, and here you have the injector, which sprays petrol. So in this area, okay, of the pipe, air and fuel, air and petrol mix before entering together the combustion chamber. Okay? Fuel port injection. Now, in diesel engines, we use direct injection, which means, as you know, that the fuel is injected directly into the combustion chamber. It's not pre-mixed with air. Non viene premescolato con l'aria. Here it is pre-mixed, and here it mixes directly inside the cylinder. As you remember, in the combustion chamber of a diesel engine, you only have hot air, okay? So here you have hot air getting inside, and then you have the fuel injector injecting atomized diesel, okay? So this is the difference between petrol engines and diesel engines. Now, today's petrol engines also use direct injection, okay? So you can find direct injection also in petrol engines. Okay, the oil system now. Now, the oil system has got some important components which you need to remember. First of all, the oil pan, the oil pump, the oil filter, and the oil fill port. Now, this is the oil fill port. It's where you basically put in the oil, okay? The oil pump is down here, okay? Then you have the oil filter and the oil pan. The oil pan è praticamente la coppa dell'olio, where all the oil is collected. The oil pump sends, invia, or pumps the oil all around the engine, okay? And of course, you also need an oil filter because through its journey around the engine, the oil, of course, gets dirty. So it needs to be filtered from all the dirt, okay, the dirty particles, okay, before starting the cycle again. Now, what does oil lubricate? Che cosa lubrifica l'olio? As you can see, it lubricates all the moving parts, okay, of the engine. And what are the moving parts? The pistons, of course, the camshaft is always moving, the crankshaft is always moving, but we need to make sure, dobbiamo assicurarci that the oil doesn't get inside the combustion chamber. That's why pistons, and you can see it clearly in the picture here, I'll show you. You can see that there are some rings here in the piston. Sorry, and you can clearly see them here. Just wait a second. You see that there are some rings, okay, on the piston. Those rings basically impediscono or stop the oil from entering inside the combustion chamber, okay? That would be a bad thing for our engine. Okay, so not only oil lubricates the moving part, but it also prevents wear, okay? Wear means usura, un attimo solo che scompare, esatto. Wear means usura, quindi previene l'usura of the moving parts. It also limits corrosion because when a metal component is exposed to oxygen and air, it can get corroded. And also, quite surprisingly maybe, it helps to cool the engine, aiuta a raffreddare il motore. You know that is the task of the cooling system, but also the oil system may help, okay? So, let's go on. Talking about the cooling system, a proposito di sistema di raffreddamento, here it is. So, as you can see, in a cooling system, we need the coolant. Abbiamo bisogno del liquido refrigerante. And the coolant is made of a cold fluid, è fatto da un fluido freddo, and water together. Here it is. You can see it in the blue arrows traveling around the engine, okay? Second thing, you need a water pump, of course. Just like you have an oil pump, you need a water pump, here it is, to circulate the water all around the engine, okay? Third, where does the water go? Dov'è che va l'acqua? Cosa deve raffreddare? Of course, it needs to cool basically all the space around the cylinders. So the cylinders have to be kept cool. Have to be kept cool, tenuti freddi, as far as possible, per quanto possibile. Or at least they mustn't reach certain temperatures. They mustn't overheat. Non devono surriscaldarsi, overheat. Okay? Now, of course, all this water becomes very hot when it is in contact with the cylinders, right? Because here you have a combustion taking place. So the water becomes very hot. So it needs to be cooled. Deve essere raffreddata. That's why we have a radiator. A radiator is made of tubes and fins. Fin significa sarebbe la pinna, no, di un pesce, ma quando parliamo di motori chiaramente sono delle alette. And the fins, le alette, help to disperse heat. Aiutano a disperdere il calore, ok? Of course you need an airflow, you need air to pass through the radiator. Ci serve dell'aria che passi attraverso il radiatore. That's why you have a fan. Ok? Per questo abbiamo una ventola. Non so mai se si dice ventola o ventila in italiano. Scusate ragazzi, la sbaglierò sempre questa. So you need a fan. The fan draws in, cioè tira dentro air through radiator. Quindi tira dentro l'aria attraverso il radiatore. To cool water, per raffreddare l'aria. You see the water flows inside the radiator. It becomes cool and the cycle starts again. Okay, let's go on. The electrical system. Now, the electrical system, in very simple words, in parole molto semplici, is activated when you turn the key. Now, when you turn the key here, you see the ignition switch. What happens? The battery, first of all, gives power, dà energia, to the starter motor, al motorino di avviamento. You need a starter motor to start the combustion. Ovviamente ci serve il motorino d'avviamento proprio per avviare, no? La combustione, il movimento quindi dei cilindri, dei pistoni, scusate, non dei cilindri. So this is the first thing it does. But the battery also gives power to the spark plugs, ok? Dà anche energia, elettricità, corrente, scusate, alle candele. Le candele devono fare la scintilla, right? The spark plugs have to produce a spark, and they do it thanks to the electricity coming from the battery, okay? Not only, the battery also gives power to all the other appliances in your car. For example, the lights, the car lights, or the radio, or once again, the air conditioning system. Okay, they all work thanks to your battery. That's why it's important to keep your battery fully charged, pienamente carica, okay, fully charged. And that's why you have an alternator, okay? The alternator, as you can see, is connected to the timing belt, ok? È connesso, collegato alla cinghia non è la cinghia di trasmissione, non mi ricordo più come la chiamiamo in italiano, comunque avete capito. As this timing bell turns, it also transmits electricity to the alternator, or better still, the alternator transmits energy to the battery. The alternator recharges the battery, okay? And in this way, the battery can può mantenere a good level of charge, un buon livello di carica, okay? Finally, the exhaust system, very few words. In the exhaust system, you have a manifold, okay? A manifold collects, raccoglie the exhaust fumes coming, you see, from the exhaust valves of the cylinders, okay? So here it collects the fumes. The fumes go inside a catalytic converter, which helps to reduce the emissions. And then it travels through the pipe until it reaches the muffler, la marmita. The muffler is basically to reduce the noise our car produces. Okay, guys, that's all. Thanks a lot for listening and see you very soon.